listen to this. They gave everybody a plastic cup that was like you could collapse it.
Collapsible, yes.
Okay.
We have to take
and
those in
you
ultras
then
usually.
had to go to fill it up en route. There'd be these hose pipes. You can't stop and spray a hose pipe into your cup. I mean, it's going to be spraying everywhere. So you basically have to run with the trail pack and carry your own water, or stop for 30 seconds to a minute and fill your cup up. I wouldn't do a marathon if that was the situation. So I think they've gone too far.
They've gone too far. This is too much.
I know we need to save the environment, but no, you can't stop and use a hose pipe to fill up a cup.
Yeah, I mean, in ultras, they've sort of figured it out. Most people are running with water bottles or flasks. Yeah. And the real key is just big jugs. So the races that really have it together, all the volunteers, they all have like just jugs that are just big full jugs that they can fast pour. Welcome back to another episode of Two Average Runners. I'm average runner number 1, Hugh, and with me I have
average runner number 2.
Yeah, and we have I'm so excited to talk today. I was excited from the moment we woke up this morning. We recorded this on a Monday, and today is the Monday after an epic day. An epic day.
Medal Monday.
Medal Monday. Oh, we have a medal. Oh my God, you'll have to go to YouTube. We have Medal Monday here from Alice. Oh, yes. Medal Monday. Quite decent
one, actually. Quite nice. Rose gold. Suits me. I'm very happy with it.
That's actually kind of good. Yeah, I like that color. That's awesome. So there we go. So you have to quickly go check over on YouTube and see the medal. Yesterday was London Marathon. It was an epic day. It was a historic day because Alice got a personal best. And then three other guys ran fast. Yeah, 3 other guys ran faster than a world record. 2 guys broke 2 hours for the first time ever in an official marathon race. But the big event was Alice's PB, a post-stress fracture. And so we're so excited to talk about that today and some stories that have come out of that weekend, things that Alice has seen, experienced on the course, and some things that sparked for us as well. So Alice, how are you feeling?
I am a little bit sore, a little bit stiff, but I've been on 2 dog walks already. And I live in a house with quite a few flights of stairs, so I'm up and down the stairs. So I think I'm actually doing quite well. I slept the best night of sleep that I've had for months, which is just amazing, absolutely amazing. So I'm feeling quite good, all things considered, which makes you think maybe I should have run harder. But yeah, I'm feeling good today. And yeah, a little bit, I was at first a bit disappointed. We'll chat about it in a moment, but also feeling good about myself. Yeah, awesome. Happy days. And it's lovely and sunny here in London, so that sort of helps boost the mood. Yeah, it's great.
That is amazing. So let's give us your scores for the week. We do our thing where we sort of rate sort of training, running, and we sort of rate life. So how you reflect on this past week, can you even boil it down to a couple of scores?
There's a part of me who wants to give it like a 7 or 8, but I'm actually going to go for a 10 for running.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And because I'm still very much in marathon mode, it feels like life therefore is kind of like an 8 or a 9.
Wonderful.
So sun shining, great moments this weekend. So give those nice high scores.
So what makes it, for me, it was a good, 8 or 9 for life and a very happy 7 for running. This was a down week for me, which was more of a recovery week. And it really was. I got a couple of runs in on my trip to Mexico with my entrepreneur group, but it was humid and hot. It was kind of sucky. I managed to get a run in. So I got up early doors yesterday morning to watch the start of the marathon and to watch watch Alice. And so I was and I went to my gym, to the treadmill, where I just did a bunch of uphilling for like an hour and 45 with my iPad, with the phone, watching Alice's dot move along a map. We're looking at her
getting
splits.
Slower and slower as it went.
Well, we'll see. We'll talk about that. But so yeah, it was an uneventful week of running, and I'm so happy with it. But I want to focus on you because there's so much to talk about here. So what made it the week a 10? You said you could have rated it lower, but you caught yourself and you rated it a 10. Tell us about that.
Look, I know the right thing to say is, I'm really pleased. I did PB. I couldn't run in December. I was only started run walking mid to end January, February start training. The fact that I actually got round is awesome. I think I was at first, and I still am a little bit disappointed because I know I can run a lot better. But also because of the way that the way the race went has left me with some kind of niggling concerns. I don't know if I say concerns, but just wondering what's kind of going on. I can chat about it in a moment. But giving it a 10, I think, is just because it was one of the most amazing experiences.
What was so amazing
living in London and going to a race in your hometown. Okay, yes, I'm South African by birth. I have lived here a long time. It's one of the world's biggest cities. To go from your home, this amazing organized events, like you get on the trains, everybody's there getting on the trains, or runners, supporters, it's early in the morning. You get yourself over to Greenwich. There's all these different color-coded start areas, and just the level of organization, the people, the atmosphere, just absolutely incredible. I mean, London tubes try to strike in the week. You know what it's like. They put a strike on in the week before, trying to dampen everybody's spirit, but the strike was called off on Friday night or ended on Friday night. So by the weekend, everything was up and running. Yeah. And then you drop your kit bag off and it's there for you at the end. Like there's lorries, your bag's numbered. I mean, the whole thing, the way that it just operates is just incredible. And so many people obviously coming together to make it possible. And then I'd say just the crowds beginning to end, wall to wall, like 4, 5 or more people deep cheering. I think next year I should hopefully have another good for age. And if I do it, I won't wear headphones.
Oh, so you wore some headphones yesterday?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Because that's what I'm used to doing. It's what I'm used to doing. I had my playlist. I can hear my splits in my ear. But I think if I did it again with that crowd, no, I wouldn't wear them.
Okay. That's great. So tell us about how the race went. Everyone wants to know. So what was your time?
What happened? Okay, so I got 3:11.
Tell us your time so people know your time.
3:11, and I think my PB is just under 3:13. So it's like a minute and a bit, or maybe like a minute and 45 seconds or something PB. But the thing is this, that my PB is still my first marathon, and that was 18 months ago. I'm a hell of a lot fitter. I'm much more experienced. Okay, I've only run 3 marathons. Well, I've run 4 and DNF'd one of them. So I feel that for the amount of work that I've put in, how much fitter I am, how much stronger I am, how much better I've nailed my nutrition, all of these things, that it should be more than 90 seconds in it. But for some reason, and the same thing happened at Berlin. Yes, it was hot at Berlin, but I get to 15 kilometers and I just start losing power. It's not like I'm cramping. It's not like I've got lactic acid. I'm not short of breath. It just, if you think about your rate of perceived exertion, my coach says to me, you want to run like a 6 or 7 out of 10.
Okay.
You want to get to halfway and then you go moving to a 7 and you're picking it up from there. What I cannot understand is that I run faster than that for a half marathon and I don't get this weird fade at 15 kilometers. So I need to do some research to figure out what's going on. Yes, it was much sunnier than I was expecting. I was thirsty, but there's something happens because I then sort of pick it up again at the end. I get to 30 something kilometers. I don't know if it's because my brain goes only 10 Ks. Now let's go. But there's something that's happening. Or maybe I'm not quite where I think I am fitness wise and I need to start even slower, but I don't know. The reason that it's only in like a 90-second PB is because I slowed down to nearly 5 minutes a kilometer at one point, which for me is pretty slow. So, if you look at my graph on Strava, I take a real dive to the depths of nowhere and then I come up. I don't know what it is, Hugh. I don't know. I don't really think it's fitness. Something else feels like it's going on. And maybe it's just a lack of experience.
Well, we'll just pause for a second there. So the cool thing, we had multiple listeners message over the weekend trying to track you down. You were registered under your still official, married name, not your maiden name.
I've been far too lazy to change it back. So at the moment,
so some people failed to find you, and I think Buchanan, right, was what you were under.
Yeah.
Instead of Penn, which is obviously what your maiden name, which you go by. What was your bib number? Do you remember off the top of your head?
25166.
And then I had another listener message this morning asking how you did. And they asked that, did she get her sub 3? Because they know you'll go, that's like your big goal. And I said, she got it. She didn't get sub 3. She got a PB. I said 3:11 and change. I don't remember the exact amount. And my friend, listener, replied, wow. I mean, that's times I could only dream of. Right. And she's a competent athlete also, in her mid 40s like us. What, her big goal is to get a Boston qualifying time. I mean, you smashed into the Boston qualifier without, it's just and I don't even know if Boston's on your list, and that's a topic for maybe a different point. But it's so funny how we know what we think our potential is, and we know what our goals are, and yet what you ran was so fast, right? It's just so impressive. And even slowing to 5 minutes per kilometer is still super. It's not even walking pace. Let's be clear. You weren't down to a walk, but it felt like walking, no doubt, to what you were.
But it's crazy what the brain does, because I was really bargaining with myself from 15 to nearly 25, 30 Ks. Giving your brain sort of giving you all these. I read about this. I think it's with Steve Magnus, the guys that we follow and listen to, saying that your brain will look for every reason to get you out of there. And this time that was really happening. And one of the best things about my race was that my stepson came to Canary Wharf, which is about 25 Ks, to cheer us on, which was really cool because he's 19 and many kids are sleeping late on a Sunday morning. So the fact that he was up early and there was next level. But as I was approaching where I knew he would be, my brain was saying, okay, when you see him, there's the opportunity to run off to the side. Maybe he can take you home. You can quit. How many times my brain was just saying, just stop and have a breather, stop and have a rest. Now, one thing I did do that I didn't do in Berlin just became, I just wanted to get it over with. But I stopped and walked at some of the water stations in Berlin, and I let myself slow down even more. One thing I didn't do this time was stop once. I said, no ways, I'm going to keep going. Also because last time my mother complained, you talk about the tracking. Last time when I got in from Berlin, my mother said, it looked like you were going backwards at one point. So this time my mother's voice was echoing in my ears. I was like, okay, I might be slowing, but I need to keep it moving because my mother, might be watching me on the tracker and seeing how I'm grinding to a halt. So I did pick it up at the end, which I didn't do at Berlin. So that was a plus. I felt like overall, I dug myself out of the hole better than I did last time. So that was good.
Well, it's so interesting, right? Because we can know what to do and our fitness could be in the right place, but it's not a given that it can execute on the day. There's so many different factors. Yeah. And then even then, I think progress in what we do is non-linear. Like I know several people, a lot of runners I run with were in Eugene yesterday, which is where I think Nike's based, or the University of Oregon, and there's the Eugene Marathon, and a big group went out there, and a couple of people got PRs, which are great, and then a couple of people didn't have the race that they wanted, and yet they'd been PRing a lot lately. Like they'd broken 3, and then they were improved, and this one they were over 3, that and that might have felt like a step back, but they the progress is, things aren't linear. It's not linear progress. It's not often even just like incremental. No. It's like you sort of maybe have plateaus, step back, and then a big leap. I gotta say one thing for our listeners here. It's and we might tease this podcast as well, because I've already had people messaging asking about how Alice did, and we record on a Monday and then it gets published a week later because it's our way to ensure, because we have busy lives and sometimes we have to shuffle around. But we might clip a little bit of this episode and as a little bonus, preview for folks of how Alice did. But I remember, so I watched you in the first 5K and it showed it said, because it predicts then based on your current thing, and it predicted 2:59. And I was like, oh, she's going for it. She's going for it,
I knew people would be thinking that,
I was like, and I also had heard that the first 5K is actually touch downhill, right? It's popping the first 5K is always going to be quick because the energy and everyone's surge, it's probably super hard to even hold back. Plus,
and that was me holding back. I had one split that was 4:08. This is in minutes per K.
Yeah.
Because it was such a steep downhill. But I was really trying to hold back, but I was sitting around 4:15, 4:14. Yeah. And that was me restraining myself, maybe I needed to go even slower. Who knows?
It's so hard to do. But anyway, firstly, again, congratulations. And look, I loved watching and seeing you dig yourself out of the hole. Right, you came back strong, because at one point, the predictor is obviously, it's going to sort of linearly extrapolate from the last handful of splits. So it starts to extrapolate out. And then I was like, oh, that's not going to be a PB. And I was it doesn't matter. It's it's a race. It's an experience. But then you started to pull it back to, sort of right. You came back and then you started to hold at that pace, and it was super, super awesome to see you, execute to the finish line.
Yeah, no, it was amazing.
What are some highlights? So that's the stuff that's kind of boring but important to us, but none of our listeners care. And for some people, they could only dream of running 3:11. Yeah. And for others, they might not, if mum's listening, she probably doesn't even know what 3:11 means. And look, Alice, just to be clear, I just want you to realize you ran an hour and 11 minutes slower than the winner of the marathon yesterday. So who broke 2 hours. So just to reflect on that about how fast they're going. What were some of the highlights? What are some of the non split time, pace related reflections.
I think this is when I started reflecting on why was it a great marathon and what did I love? It did actually make me realize, like, also the time, of course it matters, but it also is just, marathon number 3 of hopefully many more. And the stuff that I'm going to remember more is probably the other things, so for example, one of the key highlights was actually as you come over Tower Bridge. I mean, the crowds there are, Kati Sark as well is amazing, but the crowds there it's like, you feel like a celebrity and you can just, either like put your hand above your head or sort of just do the kind of, I'm gesturing sort of the up the noise ante to the crowds and they just absolutely roar as you're going over the bridge. And then you head off east. So you sort of turn right towards Canary Wharf. And as I was coming down there, the elites were coming the other direction towards the embankment. Of course, makes you realize, yes, they start ahead of you, but how fast they are. So it was incredible to see those top 3 guys and the pack coming through, the top elite women as well. And also seeing some of the runners, like the British runners. Sometimes I run in a place called Battersea Park on a Sunday, and there's a British athlete called Rose Harvey, who's also just come back from injury. She trains there every Sunday and I see her and I saw her on the road. So you get to scream at those guys. Alfie Manthorpe, young British guy making his first debut, got to scream and he shouted him. So I would say there were quite a few moments in the race like that you almost feel like you're going to cry because it's so emotional. The crowds are so loud. You're seeing your running heroes. Just quite actually overwhelming. And I really tried a lot of the race to do what I'd said I'd practiced before, which is really just being so pleased that I'm there and running and smiling at people. What my best hack is for me is I wore a South African flag headband. And so you see lots of South African flags cheering. And so you can run to sort of them and wave and lots of people shouting South Africa at you. So you get like an extra boost from all the South African expats.
I love that.
Cheering.
Love that.
What else was a top moment for me? My stepson, I mentioned, being there was just so emotional and such a big boost. And he's a very charismatic young guy, and he had actually got the crowds around him all invested in me and then his dad coming later, and they were all cheering for us. And so that was also something else. So he said everyone was like helping each other cheer and look out for their people they were cheering on. So that was really cool. I saw a couple of other friends on the way. The physios that I use in London, I knew that they were going to be on the embankment. So that's in the last 5 to 7 Ks, and that bit I know well running wise. So I kind of know where I am, and I did feel like I'm going to put foot and go. And I also knew I was going to see their area that they were cheering from around Temple, which I think you probably know where it is, where the sort of a lot of the law firms and barristers' chambers are. And as I saw them, I ran alongside, where they were all standing and sort of waving and cheering at them, and they went completely mad. They had loud hailers because some of the guys know me. So there were moments like that. And then I think the other thing was just en route, the things that you see. There was a guy running in my wave, and he was really running fast, who visually impaired. He had a sign on his back on his t-shirt, and he was running unaided. Because sometimes you see them with a guide. But this guy was running on his own, and he just had a white stick at the ball at the end, and he was feeling his way. But I mean, he was moving fast. So I don't know how he did that. And I was just mind blown. Like my waves of nausea and anxiety, I was like, okay, whatever. And then you see, people in fancy dress, but they are genuinely millions and millions are raised, over the weekend. But the one story that really stood out for me is a young guy, and I don't know his name, but he's if people want to look him up, the FTD brothers. It's frontotemporal dementia. They are young guys, and this guy ran with a 25 kilogram fridge on his back. And I think he's doing 33 marathons like that to raise money. And they've got a very, very moving story about they've got a genetic type of dementia in their family, and both brothers have tested and they tested positive. So they know they're going to get it. Probably in their 40s, and they'll die, probably quite young. And so they're doing everything they can to raise awareness. So then when you see that, you and your few blood blisters on your toes, and was it 3:11 or could have been 3:05? I mean, whatever, who cares? So the fact that the truth is this, I went out. I didn't stop. I got it done. My brain was trying to tell me to quit. I didn't execute as well as I could have. So what? Let's try again. And I've done all that training. It's going to count for something. Mm-hmm. And the final thing I want to say is just the finish. You come past Buckingham Palace, you go down the mall, you sprint the hell out of it to get to the finish line. And then the people there are like, some guy came up to me and said, held me by the arm. And he said, you look a little bit pale. I'm going to be your best friend for a few moments. Is that okay? And I just said to him, I do need a friend. Yes. Thank you. I really need a friend.
I really need a friend.
And I was sort of wobbling. Right. And then he sort of took me over to get my medal. And so, got all the supporters. Everyone is so encouraging. And then my coach, I think I mentioned last week, she is an Olympic athlete for triathlon. Mm-hmm. She's a great runner. She's got a young family, so she's kind of building back up her fitness and everything again. So I saw her on the road, if you can believe it. Mm-hmm. I think she was head to toe in South African stuff. She was going a bit fast for me, but we had a bit of a run together. She got 2 hours, 59 minutes, 44 seconds. So how's that
Fantastic.
For execution? Yes. And then she was there at the end and we'd never met in person. So the first time I met her in person is during the marathon. I saw her and I ran up to her and tapped on the shoulder and we had a chat and a run together. And then we met at the end with my partner Dale, who's also coached by her, and some other South African friends. We were all with her and we all just sat on the grass or sat on the mall at the end chatting and just enjoying ourselves. And that was just such a highlight of the whole event for me to see my coach in person and just feel like I've known her for years, even though we've never met. So yeah, I think I'm still on a high, really, Hugh, to be honest with you, despite whatever my time is.
That's incredible. I must say, I think I'd entered the ballot last year, didn't get it. I know this is the week now to enter the ballot again.
Yes,
so I'm definitely, I was like, so yeah, I'm definitely entering the ballot. I have to Google which is the odds. Should I enter as a foreigner or as a UK? I don't know which gets me the best odds.
Yeah.
But it looked inspiring. I mean, I think as someone who has lived in London, like seen people go past the Cutty Sark, which is like this old, like ancient ship, that is that everyone sort of do a little circle around. And then obviously I used to live near Tower Bridge, to run over Tower Bridge. I didn't realize that it was like, that was so noisy there, but that's so cool.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
I knew that there was a section where you go one way and then you come back the other way. So you would crisscross with people. I hadn't thought that you'd actually see like the leaders. So that's super cool that you got to see them.
Can I tell you something about that? This is runner's brain for you. So when I'm coming out of Canary Wharf now and I'm finishing that section, which everyone says is the worst, and it is, because it is a little bit hilly. I mean, it's not hilly, but there are some ups and downs. So I'm coming along there now and I see all these runners on the other side of the road. Mm-hmm. And my brain, I then saw a pacing flag for, what did it say? 3:55. My brain told me that these are people ahead of me.
Yeah.
And then I was like, how have I got so slow that I'm behind the 3:55 paces? It took me a good 3, 4, 5 minutes to clock. No, this is where you've been before. You were on the other side earlier. You're not coming here. I was like, and then I was so confused. I was like, these people are like, what's going on here? So that's your runner's mind, runner's brain for you.
The runner's brain, unable to do mathematics, unable to to comprehend exactly what's going on.
But wait, you've got 2 maths degrees. So do you get runners? Can you do your runner's maths, far into it, or do you lose it?
When it's an ultra, like particularly an ultra, sort of like 10, 20 hours in, the math totally fails at that point.
But you don't fail at sort of 2 hours like the rest of us.
I don't know. But then again, I think the intensity there of doing that, and just when your brain is so locked into one thing, like other things just don't make any sense at all. But that's so cool. I've done a little running along the embankment. It must have been with that weather yesterday. Just running along there, seeing the London Eye, passing, seeing Big Ben, turning up. It's sort of, and then obviously the famous turning right to Buckingham Palace, seeing the finish line. It must have been amazing. So
it was amazing. So,
wow. So what should we talk about next?
I think there was something that we were thinking about with the leading men having broken 2 hours, 2 people going under 2 hours, some echoes with the Roger Bannister and the mile. But I think you had some thoughts about that.
Yeah. So funny story. I still remember, I believe it was 2017. Mm-hmm. And I'd come over to London for a trip. And that morning, I remember it was Kipchoge's first attempt. I think it was 2017. First attempt. It could have been 2016. I could be off a year. But anyway, this is his first attempt at the break-in 2. And obviously it was on the back of like, Nike had just come out with the Vaporfly. It was all this like it was the very beginning of the super shoe, and this idea of putting it all together in this sort of science experiment. And I remember being inspired about that back then. And then obviously when he actually broke it, that was pretty cool. But again, a very controlled environment, obviously not official as a world record. It was quite contrived. I don't know. There was a moment in that race yesterday, in the race yesterday that I wasn't running, to be clear, but I'm on the treadmill. I'm doing my thing where it's like, I think history is going to be made here today. Like I was getting goosebumps doing it. I was like, this might be happening right now. And seeing those two particularly, and obviously, was it John Career who was third? Was he third? Yeah. And so there was a moment, there were three of them all together, and they're like, are these guys, and this is probably a couple of K to go, are these guys going to be in an all-out sprint? And obviously it was Ratchetin, and Career lost contact. So then it was obviously Sawe and the other guy.
Kiplimo, wasn't
he? Sorry, Kiplimo, not Kiplimo. Career was in Boston.
Sorry, I had to just check that.
Yeah, you're right. So it was Kiplimo, but like Kiplimo was like falling off. And now, again, he still broke the world record. Kiplimo did in third. But then that guy in second, his first marathon, and I think I saw an interview, I think he said he got until maybe mile 21, 22. It was until he hit the wall. Maybe it was later, maybe it was 24. But it was like so late, but then finally it got him. And he's like, he felt like he lost power and lost everything. But I mean, he was only like 15 seconds behind.
Yeah, crazy.
But then to see them, I mean, it was history being made. And what we were chatting just before we started recording, which was this, I'd seen him be interviewed or I'd seen post hoc, that he'd been interviewed beforehand, and someone had asked him, do you think you can break 2 hours? Are you going to break 2 hours? And he said, yes. Like he had belief. And we thought that was kind of interesting, like the power of belief in these things. What are your thoughts on all that? I
think there must be a lot in it, because I also think that there's something about when you hesitate and you don't believe, that can also, I think the doubt can also, from my own experience, I know how those niggling feelings of doubt. And I think, we were talking about the Roger Bannister story, that once he broke 4-minute mile, people saw it was possible. And I think there is something that happens.
Yeah.
That makes people think, I think we feel I don't know if it's just inspiration or if it's just that deep seated understanding. It is possible.
Yeah.
It can be done. Yeah. I'd love to know what the actual science is behind that. I don't know if you know any of it. It'd be cool to sort of look it up, but I'm sure it's something they've proven many times.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's this, this idea of focusing and believing in something before it happens, in order for it to happen. And I think that's a big part of visualization in sport. And we're all famous of seeing like Michael Phelps with his headphones on, sort of pre-gaming. I think Michaela Schifrin or Lindsey Vonn at the top of Schifrin even more so, who's the GOAT in terms of slalom. She'd be at the top of the hill with her headphones on, and she's like basically visualizing skiing every gate on the way down. They'll be like, just in place before she goes and does her run, and sort of visualizing the perfect run, the perfect line, or just visualizing. And of course, in the world of ultras, there's this weird thing which always sort of gets me, which is this, it's counterintuitive in some ways, because you visualize all the things that could go wrong, which in some sense, like, would you not then encourage the things to go wrong? But it's like you visualize all the things that could go wrong and then how you deal with them. So you're actually visualizing how you're dealing with every possible circumstance and every possible situation. And so I think I don't know what that exact science is there, but I believe in that sort of the power of the mind to overcome and endure. And I think that it is so funny how like sort of subconsciously we could sabotage things. We all know how we sabotage our own progress or our own success. And you could just imagine even with that one that like, no matter how good you are, you start to have the doubts, but could anyone really go under 2? Is it even possible? And that could just like linger. I think we're in an era though, we've just come off Boston last week, which was sort of another historic weekend. Everyone's running so fast. It seems like we're in a sort of a golden age of a new golden age of marathon running, fueled by carbs.
Because even the half marathon times have been really, quite really been picking up.
And I think
carbs, and also I think the shoes as well. The shoes make a small difference. Apparently he was. I think he was in a new pair of
Adidas ones.
Yeah.
And so all those things are compounded. And I think the big thing that I really like it's like, which I think is so important for like when we think about us as two average runners, is the intervention on the day is one thing. Okay, if you believe shoes give you 4% on average better, though they say if you're a super responder to a particular model of shoe, you may get 5 to 7% improvement. It's almost like that 5 to 7% on race day is not the thing that matters. It's if you're getting 5 to 7% on every workout you do, so each workout you do feels that little bit better, and you get a little bit faster, and you start to believe a little bit more. And this is the big thing with ultras is that, I mean, I still remember the days when I like go and do a long run and just feel completely crushed at the end and be broken for a day. And that's why, back then I feel like back-to-back runs was such a big heroic thing to do. Was now if you fuel the first run really well, and then you fuel afterwards, but you don't even have to go crazy afterwards because you fueled well doing the run. And then you recover well the next morning, you get up and then you just do it again. And it doesn't feel as, so I think it's this, I love this idea of these things compounding and then you just get able to stack brick after brick, week after week.
And when it comes to the self-belief thing, I mean, let's be clear. It's not like he's just waking up saying, I think I'm going to run sub 2. They must be basing it on what they see in training, the gains that they're making, the improvements. But I think if there is that extra component of having that self-belief, today is the day. And the conditions, there's an app that I actually follow on Instagram called Meteo Pace.
Okay.
And they look at wind, temperature, course profile, and they'll say for your pace, how many minutes or second either side of that you might gain or lose. And they said for yesterday's race, if you were an elite, because you start early and you probably have done some sort of heat training, there'd be no impact from the sun on your race. And there was a bit of a tailwind and that probably gave a little bit of assistance. So I think conditions wise, it worked out to be the perfect day. And the proof is in the pudding, 3 people under a world record.
Yeah.
What I actually also liked, I don't know if you saw about Salway, is he was asked what he had for breakfast.
Yeah.
And he had, what did he say?
2 pieces of toast, honey,
white bread and honey and tea. And so my question is, how many sugars were in the tea? Because, that's all he had.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite interesting.
That was an amazing soundbite. I think it was either him or Kiplimo was famous. I think it was last year or a year or more ago. There was a clip of them before the marathon, and he was sitting there with a cup of tea, and he literally was pouring 12 sachets of sugar into It was like one of those guys, like, and it just like rip, because it was the free sugar bags, and in a cup of tea, just tip, tip, tip. I did see something that was pretty cool. Morton put something out yesterday, because Sal is a Morton athlete.
Okay.
And he did 115 grams of carbs an hour. And so he was doing Morton 320 in all his bottles, I think it was. And he did Morton in the morning as well. Like he did bicarb. And he was doing bicarb 12, which is kind of interesting because I think the biggest one you can order, if you do it based on your weight, would be bicarb 25. And that's the hack that David Roach says, do bicarb 25 and have it, which is what I do. I sort of buy the most expensive, buy the biggest one. And then I usually cut it in thirds. But he did that. And again, he did a day before he carb loaded with the sort of Morton sports drink, but it's like, he did 115. Now you can argue like, was he really drinking the whole of a bottle, whatever? Like, I'm not going to go into that, but, he definitely prioritized those carbs, and it just shows what can be possible.
Yeah. The whole thing's inspirational, from those guys to the people carrying fridges. I think the theme was, inspiration, courage, and just people coming together. London is not always a friendly and warm place. You've lived here, you know what it can be like, but yesterday was just London at its best. So
inspiring. I think that's really interesting about the music as well. Like, I definitely want to run London. That's a good one. Like, hey, just go run and not even, take any headphones. I like that piece of advice to sort of try to soak up as much of it as you can. So we saw that. So break into, I think I'm fascinated to see what happens next right now. There was another interesting one. I follow a lot of trail running. Obviously, there was another big Western States qualifying race over the weekend called Canyons 100K.
Okay, yeah.
It's a golden ticket race. It's known as a super golden ticket race. So the top 3 male and top 3 female get offered golden tickets. And obviously if they decline, it can roll down. And it was really fascinating that in the male race, it was won by Adam Peterman, who he'd had a standout year in, I think it was 2022, where he won Canyons, the same race there, and then went on and won Western States. And he sort of had a period of sort of a year, won everything, but then he had injuries, like I think stress fractures, and it's taken him several years to get back. Last year, he qualified again for Western States, but he sort of blew up, his quads blew out, I think 50 or 60, and he tried to quit 4 times, but somehow volunteers and his crew persuaded him to keep going, and he actually walked in. He walked in for a stub 24-hour finish, but remember, like, he was hoping to finish in 14 to 15 hours, and he ended up walking in, like, literally just walking the last 40 miles, like, not a single step. And he was sort of regarded as, I certainly was inspired by just like the grit. It's so hard to get into that race. It's so cherished by people to like take advantage of that opportunity. He won the hearts and minds of the crowd. Anyway, he's been dealing with injuries, even injuries since, and he got back and he got the win there. And he was chased hard by these 2 other legends of the sport, Zach Miller and Hayden Hawks, who famously had this duked it out in this 15-miler in like 2016, and it's still known as Miller versus Hawks, where it was the first time like you had some guys with handhelds were running on the trail, and they sort of captured a ton of the race, and they were like neck and neck right to the finish. And sort of Zach Miller famously sprints through the finish line. He's like, he looks like he's doing a 10K, like 10, like, a quarter way into the race. It looks like there's no way this guy can keep going at that effort. But he does, that's just his style, to just give it all. And so all 3 of them are they've been around a long time. They've all had injuries in this last year. They all had been planning to do earlier races to try to get into Western States, but couldn't because of injury. And they made it to the start line. And I thought that was just such an inspiring story of these folks who, again, they didn't have a perfect build-up. They had been injured. They still made it to the start line and gave it their all and came away. And all 3 of them are now going to go to Western States off that start line. So that was pretty inspiring for me.
No, that's amazing. I was actually, just while you were talking, and we were also talking about this just before we started recording today, since it seems like inspiration maybe is a bit of a theme today, is South Africa today is a public holiday or bank holiday, whatever you want to call it. They actually have 12, I think, which is a lot compared to the States, where you guys never seem to ever have holiday. Yeah. So 12 days where people don't have to work outside of the weekend every year. And this day is called Freedom Day. And it's to mark the first true democratic election in 1994, where anybody over the age of 18, no matter your race, vote. And on this day, they have a race in South Africa, paddling. So I think it's kayaks, skis. I think SUPs can also enter. But you paddle to Robben Island, which is where Mandela was and other political prisoners were kept. And have you been to Cape Town?
I've been to Cape Town, but I haven't been to Robben Island.
Yeah,
sadly.
But it's a small island. If you're standing in the sort of Table Bay waterfront area, it's just out to sea. So the paddle, you paddle to the island and back, 27 kilometers. But my dad and my brother paddled it today. I just checked my messages. They survived. It was very rough. The sea was very choppy. Wow. So that's a real sport where the conditions can really, let's see what the sea's like today. So off they went. But it is quite funny. My dad and my brother paddled together. My dad is nearly 77.
Wow.
And my brother is 45. And my dad and my brother paddle together. I think my brother puts himself in charge, which if anyone knows my dad will know that's quite a big deal. But my brother sort of takes charge, and they paddle quite a bit together. They paddled canoe marathons and things like that. But recently they were in a contest. I don't know if it was a lake, a river, or a sea one. Someone in the announcers said, "Here come the Penn brothers." His maiden name is Penn. Meanwhile, the Penn brothers, it's my dad and my brother. So I don't know who that's more insulting to, my brother or my dad. But yeah, so they just paddled that today. The same as yesterday. I see people in their 60s and 70s coming past you, and you see those guys. They've got the look of someone who's been running for 40, 50 years. This is probably marathon, I don't know, 50. And they've got this sort of long legs and they're just gunning it past you. So it's just really cool to see people, at that stage of life still pushing themselves, setting goals. This whole theme about 2 average runners. My dad is a good sportsman, but he's not a world champion in anything. Hopefully he doesn't listen. He probably will be. But he's out there still at 76, 77, setting himself goals, entering races, getting out there, pushing himself. And I think it's just great to see that, So
inspiring. Well, kudos to him to be getting out there at 77. And it's cool to sort of, challenge yourself. and to set goals. And it's like moments like that, you realize like what I love about that is like, I have no idea how long that should take or could take. It doesn't matter. The fact is, it was like, it's an epic, kayak out and kayak back. And I'm assuming it may have taken several hours, but I don't really know how many.
I think it's like 3 hours, but I think the sea was very rough. My mum messaged to say the sea was very rough, big seas. So I think it's probably just over 3 hours. And they I think, were on a double surf ski today.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive. So these things are so, and I mean, you must have been you see so many stories, because I think 50,000 people did London Marathon yesterday.
No, 66, I think.
66,000? Oh my gosh.
I saw it posted on Instagram this morning. Yeah.
That is incredible.
And you could tell it was really busy.
Yeah, I bet it was busy.
But I want to give some feedback, not that London Marathon are listening, but the water stations were incredible.
Oh, really?
Small Buxton water bottles, so small little ones with the caps that you can just pull. They had them all opened, so you could hold it and squeeze and run and hold onto it. Small enough that I think if you chuck them on the side of the road, they kind of rolled out the way. Yeah. Compared to Berlin, where they had those, like if you went to like a beer fest or festival, you'd get a plastic
like tiny
cup,
little cups.
But hard plastic ones. So you couldn't even pinch them at the top. So they stayed in a big, in a firm cup shape. Whereas if you get a paper cup, you can squeeze it. You can therefore pinch the top and sip from it. Okay. You can't sip from a big wide-brimmed plastic cup. And I'm thinking to myself, if you're wanting to save plastic, why did we have these stupid plastic cups? So Berlin was a disaster. London was incredible.
Wow.
So, I think that, and I saw that Paris, which was a couple of weeks ago, I don't know, did you see this? Mm-mm. They are not giving out any water on the route. So they gave everybody, listen to this, they gave everybody a plastic cup that was like you could collapse it.
Collapsible, yes.
Okay.
We have to take
and
those
you
ultras
then
usually.
had to go to fill it up en route. There'd be these hose pipes. You can't stop and spray a hose pipe into your cup. I mean, it's going to be spraying everywhere. So you basically have to run with the trail pack and carry your own water, or stop for 30 seconds to a minute and fill your cup up. I mean, I actually think I wouldn't do a marathon if that was the situation. So I think they've gone too far.
They've gone too far. This is too much.
I know we need to save the environment, but no, you can't stop and use a hose pipe to fill up a cup.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, in ultras, they've sort of figured it out.
Okay.
In the sense of, most people are running with like some sort of water bottles or flasks. Yeah. And the real key is just big jugs that you can fast pour. Because the worst ones, they have these things like the big Gatorade, the orange Gatorade things with something mixed up, but they've got that little thing, you press the thing and it sort of slow pours into your bottle. Like sort of, so the races that really have it together have like all the volunteers, they all have like just jugs that are just big full that they can fast pour.
Okay.
And it is, but it's just a different dynamic, just because you're trying to keep an even pace. I remember at the San Antonio Marathon, and it was a well organized, because the city had taken over the marathon. So it's the first one this past December. And by and large, they did fantastic, great route, great support. They just had these tiny Dixie cups. And I had like a flask that I was wanting to refill. And honestly, these cups were so small. It took like 10 cups to fill my bottle, because I was like, this is absurd. Like, I just can't drink enough water, or can't fill this fast enough. So I love this idea of the little cups that you can, and it's also one of those things it's funny the way it's just so different. Like, these elites have these little tables with a little bottle that they can grab with exactly what they want. And I know that's not feasible for 66,000 people, but does make things different. So kudos to London by the sounds of things.
No, it was great. I'm hopefully be back next year. Some people finish a marathon and say, that's it, never again. I finish and I'm like, I'm one of the other group of people who say, sign me up, let's go.
So obviously, hopefully back to London next year. So that's cool. And is this time from today good enough for the good for age to use for next year, or do you have to run another faster one?
It's good enough for good for age. I think it's interesting. In my start area, most people pretty decent runners, and most are there for good for age. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting because the guys that you're standing with obviously have had to run quite fast times to get in. So we were talking about the discrepancy. So in my category, I think you have to run, I think it's a sub 3 to get in a good for age, whereas I only needed to run 3:45. So that's quite a difference. But one of the guys explained that it's also related to number of applicants. So way more men are applying for good for age than the women. So they drop the speed, the pace for women, because they're trying to get more women into the race to make it a little bit more equal.
Yeah, we like
that. It's
great,
but I do feel, it's quite tough for the men. The good for age is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
But I think I've got a Boston qualifier time. And actually my coach said at the end, she's thinking of doing Boston next year. You mentioned Boston earlier, with a couple of friends. Interestingly, my cousin, who was kind of sub-elite level in South Africa, also knows my coach. So I don't know what group will be put together, but I'd definitely be up for that.
Yeah, I've heard, I had several friends who went there this year and had great experiences. It sounds like an awesome race to do. Point to point, it's obviously quite historic.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hills in there, that particularly late in the race, which really sort of test you. And I think what's interesting is that occasionally it can be fast. This year happened to be fast. There was a sort of a cross tailwind and it was very cool conditions, but often it's hot, even in April, and then it sort of crushes people. So it's not the race you go to try to usually get
PB.
a PR or PB. Yeah, exactly.
You just get that experience.
So I love asking the question. So you finished the event and you're already wanting to sign up for the next one. And what is next? You have signed up for another race, right? You're going to Chicago
So
this year?
I'm going to Chicago for October and Valencia in December. I mean, it'll be no surprise that I'll still be trying to crack a sub 3. But when we were talking earlier, have you ever seen those stories on Instagram or whatever you're getting, you can see some of the social media stuff of people's journeys to sub 3. And how many marathons sit between 3 and 3:20, back and forth, slower, faster. It is an execution thing, I think.
Yeah.
And then when they do it, then they seem to have done it. And maybe that goes to a bit of the belief thing.
Mm-hmm. You can believe you can do it then.
Yeah, it's like you've done it. It's like even for me, when I first went sub 90 with a half marathon, I didn't think I was, and then once I did it, now I don't even question. I'm like, fine. So let's see what happens at those races. But what I think I'm going to do is try and practice racing.
Okay.
But maybe more halves. And I really want to do some 10s and 5Ks because I'm not quick on the short distance.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether if I push my threshold up a bit and get a bit quicker, which is the stuff I've not been able to do coming back from the stress fracture at all, whether that might just help me overall. So yeah, I'm going to shift it a little bit, maybe drop mileage down a bit, pick up a bit of intensity and speed, and then get back into a marathon block for Chicago, which I'll be very excited for. Try and turn it into a bit of a trip, I think, and have a bit of a travel around afterwards.
I think it's always good to keep varying the stimulus. Because the body gets used to it. And, the classic thing is, you have your marathon block building up. So now is the time to do the things that are a bit more, either it's like, it's much bigger base building or working on speed, right? Before you then get into the sort of the more classic marathon training. I think that's really, really kind of cool. And then to stay healthy, right? It's like, I think it's just, it's always actually amazing when you say it's only 4 marathons in you're in. Like, it's still quite early in this, journey. So just if you can keep staying pretty healthy and have another solid 6 months of training, I think you may surprise yourself in Chicago this year.
And I think stay injury free. And what I'm definitely going to keep is lots of walk bike. And I'm going to really try and hit the gym hard, I think, in the next few months. You're also working out in the gym a lot. How's that going, your strength training?
The strength training is going really well. It's I'm actually raring to get back in the gym tomorrow. Last week, because I was heading to Mexico with my entrepreneur group. And so I moved my Thursday session to Monday. And so it was on the back of a big running week. And then I did Monday, Tuesday strength, and I was just cooked. And I was super ready to good cooked. I was just ready for a break. And so I haven't done any strength since then because I knew I was going to be traveling. I've got a few runs in. I'm pleased I got the uphill treadmill. I did about an hour and 45 on the treadmill. An hour and a half of that was all uphill, which was good strength in its own way. But yeah, I'm excited to get back in the gym tomorrow. And yeah, the consistency, I think I'm 5 or 6, maybe 6 or 7 weeks in now to sort of consistent twice a week strength. and definitely feeling stronger. So I'm really excited to start to see this coming together once I get to the mountains later this summer. But I'm also excited, like I'm very much in a block right now, which is our strength is the focus. And then long runs on the weekend, that have a lot of vert are the focus. And then everything else is just aerobic miles. So I still do my strides, which I'm trying to like keep consistent with those. We talked about those on an earlier episode, but I'm really fascinated to see next, when I go into my next phase, my next road phase, which I don't know when that will be yet. That might be sort of coming after the summer. I'm really fascinated to see what this strength work will kind of do in terms of once I go back to sort of like much more sort of road running. So yeah, so that's what's kind of exciting to me there. It's a nice piece of variety, and having a trainer makes a big difference to me. At least it's non-negotiable. It's the belief.
Yeah.
It backs the belief as well. I know I'm not second guessing any of the training. I have sort of outsourced that to him, and he explains what we're doing, but he's clearly tailoring it to me. And each time we're sort of doing, you can tell it's part of a master plan that he's building me up as I'm getting more and more robust and strong. And so I just believe, it's back to that belief again. I was like, believe I'm getting stronger. So that's what's kind of exciting there. And then, I'm excited to get back to some more heavier volume of running this week. And
good.
And then
do you have any events coming up soon?
Nothing coming up soon. With that Hippie Hill Challenge, which was a sort of non-event, I don't really have anything coming up. It's interesting because in this block, I remember, the training plan that I'm using, which I bought online and I'm tailored because I know enough to sort of tailor, to myself. It even said in that first sort of, I think I'm in week 8 of that block right now. It sort of said in the first 9 to 10 weeks, don't sign up for any crazy, don't do any crazy races because you're doing quite a bit of volume. And a lot of it is like, it said you should not expect to go fast in this period because of the fatigue you're carrying. So I'm sort of like whereas it would be kind of nice to sprinkle in something short. I also know that's actually probably not a good fit because I'm going to not disappoint myself, but like I would not expect to run a fast 5K like in the right now. Not to say I couldn't. So it's sort of I don't know what I'll sign up for next, but we shall have to wait and see.
Sounds good. Sounds great. Well, I'm just going to be this week taking it easy.
Yeah,
just some dog walking today. I think I might hop on my Zwift bike setup. If not tomorrow, maybe Wednesday. Just do a bit of an easy spin, get the legs moving, start a bit of rolling, maybe go book a massage or something like that. But I'm going to then wait till my coach is flying back to South Africa tonight. And she said, we'll catch up at the end of the week. So we'll do a bit of a race debrief and think about next steps. Yeah. Looking forward to it.
And I have a little trip to the UK coming up for a friend's kid's bat mitzvah. And I think we're going to try to do some run in. I think actually that might be the next thing. I think you did say there's some race that you're sort of signed up for. So maybe I'll have to sign up. Maybe I'll have to sign up for that one and just, with low expectations, but have a fun race. Is that a good race? Is it a big race? Is it a good, have you done it before?
East London, Hackney, which I never normally venture into because I'm not cool enough. So it's in Hackney and it's really fun. It's just a fun race. It's not in the power of 10, which means like the official races that you can, build your scores. But it's quite a fun, vibey, crowds are good race. See if you can get yourself a bib. I got one very last minute last year because when I DNF'd Paris, because I was throwing up so much, my coach said, find a half, let's go and have a good race, boost your confidence. And actually, I think that was the first time I went under 90 minutes. And it was went really well, really easily. And it was fun. So maybe we run that together because I'm not going to race it. I'm just going to go and get it done. That could be fun, yeah.
So remember, listeners, we take listener questions. You can email us at 2averagerunners@gmail.com. That email's going to be in the show notes, or DM us on Instagram. We've been having a bunch lately, which I think we've covered. So would love any other questions, whether it's about our goals, training, life, family, juggling, all those kind of things. Shoot us your questions and we'll cover them on an upcoming podcast.
Yeah, that would be brilliant. Well, good to see you.
Good to see you, Alice. Congrats again. Enjoy your rest and recuperation.
I will.
We'll chat next week. Take care, listeners.
Soon. Bye.
Bye.